Mother?
You know you're not supposed to be here.
I know, but something attacked Leon in the forest.
Staying true to its title, A Plague Tale is exactly that. A story set in France during the 100 Years' War when the Black Death was claiming lives by the hundreds on the daily. You play the part of Amicia de Rune, eldest child of the wealthy de Rune family whose parents are murdered by the dastardly Inquisition in their pursuit of the 5-year-old Hugo de Rune, Amicia's little brother whose blood appears to carry a pure strain of the plague. Your role is to keep Hugo alive and escort him across the corpse-strewn, blood-drenched, rat-infested countryside to supposed safety, all while avoiding English soldiers and horrifying masses of red-eyed plague rats. There's no real combat to speak of in A Plague Tale, which seems odd to a long-time gamer used to taking untrained peasants to the skill level of ninja warriors over the course of a single playthrough, and especially considering that there are swords and shields everywhere and your enemies are mostly stupid. Instead, Asobo Studios have opted to go down the pure stealth route and have produced something that feels like Dishonored, with all the gruesome murder taken out and replaced by people getting eaten alive by rats. Well, people, pigs, horses. The rats are apparently not fussy. What they are, though, is extremely phobic of light. So phobic, in fact, that many of the environments treat pools of light like traffic islands. There are two sides to A Plague Tale. The first side, we'll call it the left, sees you avoiding enemy patrols by causing distractions. Amicia is very handy with the sling and will use pebbles she finds, not on the ground but rather in handy little bags for some reason, to create noise, extinguish light sources or break chain links to create walkways or open up routes.
I see you have a sling. You're going to need it, but it'll be no use to you in that state. Go to the backyard. You'll find some new strips of leather there. And feel free to use the workshop in the next room for your repairs.
The left side of the game is pure stealth, as you sneak around soldiers, hide in tall grass, throw pots that cause them to investigate, and very occasionally stone them to death with a well-placed pebble. Now and then you'll deal with an armoured enemy who you will need to dance around in order to expose the links that hold his armour on, break them to expose his forehead, and then plant one right between his eyes, which is for some reason easier than picking up a sword, waiting until his giant weapon gets helpfully stuck on the scenery again, and then shish kebabbing his jugular form from behind. It's oddly empowering in the same way that early kills in the Tomb Raider reboots are empowering, because like Miss Croft, Amicia constantly sounds 2 shocks away from a full-blown asthma attack and says things like, "Come on," and "You can do this, Amicia," over and over again. It's also quite fun from a gameplay perspective because it feels very different to simply slashing and evading and makes far more sense in the context of the game world. She's no warrior and is never going to become one, but she is a fighter and refuses to accept defeat. A Plague Tale Innocence doesn't have the best writing, but at the very least she's endearingly scrappy. The other side of the game, which for consistency's sake we'll call the right, comes closer to lightweight horror. Whenever the rats appear, sometimes pouring from drains, exploding from the earth like fountains of crude oil filled with teeth, or bursting wetly from within the writhing belly of a dead cart horse, the tone changes. You don't need to sneak around the rats. The furry little bastards know you're there. If you stray too far from the light, they will insta-kill you with 100 pairs of daggered teeth. Instead, you'll need to create pools of light and lily-pad your way around the environments like a nervous frog with a gammy leg. Amicia, with or without Hugo, is distressingly slow in these situations, especially when you have a torch made from a burning stick that will fizzle out in scant moments. Sometimes you can distract the rat hordes with hunks of ham, but at one rather uncomfortable point you'll need to lead a hapless piggy to its death to secure your route through an infested barn. Later, the left and right converge more and more often, and you'll be able to knock out a guard's lamp and then sneak by while the rats are chewing the ever-living shit out of him. It's a horrible thing to watch and a horrific thing to actually do, but while Hugo is initially horrified by his sister's callous actions, she visibly hardens to it with every reluctant kill she's forced to perform to protect her brother. As you progress, you'll unlock new slingshot and projectiles, such as a compound that melts helmets and a firebomb that will temporarily clear rats. My big gripe here, though, is that she conceives of none of these inventions and upgrades on her own, and is instead just handed them by the various NPCs who travel with her for certain portions of the stories. It is a personal complaint, I suppose, but I'd rather see her using her own ingenuity to overcome problems instead of just being handed things and told where to throw them. There are crafting elements scattered around the landscape which you'll need to harvest to create ammo on the fly or upgrade your gear at a workbench. Upgrades include bigger ammo pouches, a more accurate sling, and softer boots for easier sneakery. It's a simple enough system, its uncluttered structure indicative of A Plague Tale's refreshing design. This is not a game about systems heaped upon systems, and its simple approach to old school stealth mechanics is both restrictive and welcome at the same time. It's also bloody gorgeous on the Xbox One X. Outdoor environments have a watercolour quality, the swaying of the grass, the spitting rain, the blood-red sunsets, but the cloak of devastation that covers the land in scorch marks and viscera rarely lets you forget that this is a country at the mercy of a tyrant and in the grip of one of the most harrowing pandemics in known history. There's so much detail in the environments that it's almost a shame you're persistently dragged forward by the pace of the story. You rarely get to linger anywhere, and some moments, such as an early morning walk beside a tranquil river, feel inviting in their serenity, but these moments are not to last and really only exist as a stark contrast to the scene of horror that will surely follow. Like in those games where you know a sudden generosity towards ammo and health kits means a boss fight's looming, A Plague Tale does the same with moments of beauty. Each one is followed promptly by something horrific. Character animations have a slightly uneasy quality to them at times, and while the voice acting is mostly on point, the lip syncing and movement is a bit off. It doesn't hamper the story, and the persistent atmosphere of the dread, interspersed with shocks of ragged beauty, do make up for it. One issue that is incredibly annoying, but which I'm sure is deliberate, is the ally AI. Through much of the game you'll travel with other characters instead of, or as well as Hugo, and though they'll watch you use a burning stick to carve a path through the rat swarms, they simply won't do the same, and you'll often have to wait for them to join you before proceeding, or, as I did at a very few irritating points, go back for them because you left them behind and they cannot act autonomously. It adds to the sense of agency, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. And as with many games to bolt out of focus home stables, A Plague Tale Innocence aims high but falls just short of its lofty goals. That said, your enjoyment of it may well be determined by your ability to overlook some of its gamier tropes, such as the on-the-spot crafting, or the disturbed guards who search the area under their nose really thoroughly for a solid minute before concluding loudly that they saw nothing and then they return to their natural patrol route. Or maybe the fact there isn't a problem in the whole of France that can't be solved in some way with a sling. But what I will award A Plague Tale props for, as the kids would say, is its simple complexity. It presents a compelling plot with minimal story, grounded characters who aren't instant heroes because they pick up a sword, crafting and upgrades without an arbitrary levelling system bolted on, and some beautiful environments to solve your way around, filled with gruesome shocks and flashes of macabre grandeur. There's a hint of old school Thief about the whole affair, and despite some unobtrusive flaws, it's refreshing to just play through a game with a beginning, a middle, and an end that doesn't bog itself down with money spinning microtransactions or half-baked ideas.